Conversations for the Trades. I am your host, Christene Marie. Y'all, yesterday we talked about how to rank higher on Google for contractors, and we were talking about it from a few different perspectives. We talked about it from the B2B perspective, we talked about it from the B2C perspective, and then we also talked about it from my perspective of, along with, my dad being a small business and being in a particular local area, how do we show up that way? And then also from the consumer perspective. And the reason why taking all these perspectives is important is because we need to be able to get inside the head of each person in order to really understand what is best for us, what's best for me and my business. And there's no one size fits all. I'm meeting with a couple companies right now and just delivering proposals and talking about different strategies for their business. And there is no way that I can ever show up already knowing what they should do without first looking at the data, without first looking at their territory, without considering the end goal. Do they want to actually have this business scale? Do they want it to sell? Do they want it to succeed? And then from there, do they want to expand into other territories? Do they want to add on additional service lines? There are so many questions that you and I have to take into consideration before we can answer something like this. Should contractors run ads on Google? At first blush, the answer is automatically yes, always. But what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Where are you trying to grow? Who are your audiences? And the reason why, again, this is so important is because we want to treat every dollar with honor and with respect. I have a friend of mine who is just so frugal, and they have made multiple millions of dollars as a result of that. And they're not frugal as in stingy, but they're frugal as in mindful and intentional. And I've seen different patterns of how folks actually spend their marketing dollars. We talked about marketing a couple of days ago around how to allocate your budget. And there's an honor that is necessary. And this is why we don't just want to put a blanket yes across the board. Because for us to really honor your budget, for us to really honor your spend, we have to ask some of these pre-existing questions. For example, when we were talking about the marketing spend to revenue ratio, a few of the companies that I've worked with, they've spent 20% of their overall revenue on marketing, and then others of them have spent less than 10% on marketing. And those are two very obviously very, very different approaches. And so if you're wanting to spend less on marketing, then it is absolutely paramount that you are training your people who are boots on the ground to establish relationships, to put around door hangers, to actually blanket and canvas the area wherever you all are working, and maybe even go to business networking events. I'm taking two folks out to lunch next week just to get to know them. They've got a trades business, and yes, I'm coming from the perspective of, foundation first marketing, and, we'd love to be a vendor for you. And I want to know you, and I want to have a real relationship. And I told them that, I'm new to the area, and so I'd really like to establish roots here. Maybe we work together, maybe we don't. And I'm so happy either way, because I really value relationships, and having the foundation of relationships be a motivator for in-person connection. And then online, if we're going to be running ads on Google, it's not just, oh, let's just go and show up on Google. The why matters. Where you're going, what your strategy is, how you're spending money. The why is one of the most important things for you and I to consider. So why are you spending money on Google? Is that where your audience is? Is that where you can best serve? Truly, is that where you can really best serve your audience? And then for the sake of your mission and for the sake of the company, where are you trying to go in the next few years? And so having clarity across those questions is so important. So from there, now we can start talking about Google Ads, but I really wanted to first set the foundation that it is so critical that we're not just putting a blanket yes, blanket no, but it's data driven. Have you been there before? What has worked? What hasn't worked? And so for any vendor that comes to you and says, you should 100% be on Google without spending any time getting to know your business or getting to know your competitors, especially, and getting to know your budget. Do you even have budget to really compete? Because otherwise that is money down the drain. And depending on where you are, depending on your industry, and also depending on your type of audience, you actually maybe should be spending money elsewhere for a better yield and for a better return. For example, one of our clients, we spent $100,000 and advertised with the local MBL team. That was some of the best money they've ever spent. So that might actually be the place where you go, because your entire audience is sitting in the stands every single week, seeing your billboard and hearing you on the radio. And then here's the thing about this: being emotionally drawn to the activity of baseball and then seeing a contractor's name show up, you're actually subconsciously correlating that team and that activity, which you love so much, to that vendor or to that contractor. And so being able to have subconscious ties and roots with your audience where they're already predisposed towards you before they ever need you, that's awesome. So we want stuff like that. So when we're talking about Google, excuse me for taking a break to drink water. When we're talking about Google, it is Google Ads. And there's a couple of different things. So I'm just going to kind of break this down slowly. And I'm just going to stay high level here. There are local service ads. This is where you actually Google a business and you can see in the maps, you see the company name, you see the opportunity to call them right there. And that's kind of like the Google map packet. That is local service ads. And then you'll see traditional Google ads, which are, they are in like the actual search results, where it's the name of the company, the description. There's no like Google star rating. It's about the business, and you go to the website. So with Google Maps, the primary call to action so often is call us or get directions to us. Whereas on the search results, it is come visit our website. That's usually kind of a differentiator. So those are two key places where most people are serving ads. A third place, YouTube is actually part of the Google network. We were talking yesterday about how Google actually, it only owns 40% of the digital online real estate. And or just digital real estate in general, because there's other digital real estate. This is where it gets a little bit in the weeds, but it gets a little bit in the weeds because it's important. The Google only owns 40% of digital real estate, because when you think about digital real estate, it is the moving billboards on buses, moving billboards on like Times Square. So there's a lot of digital real estate, and Google only owns, and I have to confirm, it's been 40% for a while, so I need to confirm, is it still 40% or is it a little bit higher? But y'all, when we talk about the Google network, that also includes YouTube and Google TV. So YouTube and Google TV, two of the reasons why I love these platforms so much is because this is part of, like, if you think about before a lead comes to you, there's a couple of different stages that they're going to go through. One, they're going to go from knowing nothing about you and also nothing about the problem to slowly starting to understand, oh, I have a problem in my basement. Oh, I have a problem in that room that we actually want to paint for a baby girl that's coming. There's going to be a slow awareness and slow process of them starting to have their wheels turn about work that needs to be done on their property, work that needs to be done in their house, and we're going to, yesterday, we talked about the B2B and B2C perspective. We'll do that here as well for Google Ads, for both businesses. But for the audience, they'll usually kind of go through a slow process of starting to understand, be aware of the problem, starting to research the problem. And unless you're having a service such as restoration, where, it really is immediate, then most other businesses, there's a kind of a slower process for the customer to come around to you. I love YouTube and Google TV for the top, where they don't necessarily even know what the problem is yet, but they're starting to hear about you, starting to see about you. And then as they become problem aware, they already have you in their subconscious. And then you're already kind of a part of their life. And then they can click on your website and then go and learn about you. But they're being primed and prepped about who you are, what's your mission, why you're different. And so you're naturally going to be in their top choices because you've already been educating them about what the problem could be. You've already also been helping them understand who you are and your key differentiators. And they're already ideally emotionally connected to you in some way because of the content of your video. So ideally, video is going to have some kind of emotional component to it if it's done well. And remember, y'all, Harvard found that 95% of our purchase decisions take place in our subconscious, which is where our emotions are. We need to be tapping into the emotions of our audience just for the purpose of connection. The goal is to connect. The goal is to stand out, yes, but to have real, genuine connections so that they know, are you the right fit for them? Are you the right contractor for them? The answer will be no for some people, and for others, it will be a resounding yes. We want to help them know that at the outset to avoid wasting their time and avoid wasting yours. Let's increase your conversion rate. So from the B2B perspective, we talked about this yesterday. We did a survey. A number of companies said, yes, they will research B2B businesses, even though they'll have that initial kind of relational connection at the beginning. But then they'll go take a look at the website, take a look at your Google stance. The way that we've been targeting B2B over the past has been a series of geo-targeting efforts. So this is another type of Google ad. It's taking a display ad, which is a visual, you've seen this, well, I've seen it, but I'll be on, New York Times, and then I'll see like a banner ad for, say, Nordstrom or the Great Outdoors, and you'll see like literally a picture of an advertisement, and it's colored and it has text on it and it's interrupting the flow of the article. That's a display ad. And what we'll do is when we are physically attending an event, especially one that's high dollar or one that we're sponsoring, we will actually geofence, which means like setting up a digital perimeter around that event, and we'll target them. And we'll show those ads to those folks for however long the duration of the event. And then after that, we will retarget those same people. After they leave and go back to their homes and their offices, we can retarget them for however long we want. And y'all, that has been so helpful. And then we can actually geofence an office where we're intentionally sending our ads to hit contracting. And they know, oh, let me get to know this ground improvement company, or let me get to know this painting company. And so in geofencing, we're staying in front of them. We've got the opportunity to nurture them and tell them about who we are in concert with the local business development manager looking to go and establish a relationship. So that's B2B, just a quick overview there. B2C, we'll make sure we've got local service ads. The thing I love about local service ads is that you only pay for who turns into an appointment. There's a little bit of heavy lifting because if somebody calls and it's a spam call, your call center needs to actually go and say, hey, Google, give us a refund. And Google will do it exceedingly well and fast. So local service ads, I absolutely love that. I mentioned this yesterday. Microsoft Bing was surprisingly good. And it depends on the region and the territory, but especially if you're in more rural areas or your audience is a little bit older, that has done so well. And then YouTube, and not just YouTube TV, but Google TV. Those are two separate platforms. We were getting pennies on the dollar for number of impressions. So take a look at those different platforms for consumer, Google TV, YouTube. Look at the Microsoft Bing, and then local service ads. Local service ads is so good. You need to make sure that you've got your business certifications and licenses in the areas where you're looking to kind of like set up your local business ad. But I will say, we got a consultation with Google, and they told us to only have one LSA for your entire territory. After about a year, we decided to test it out and actually try out having a local service ad set up for every single business. By far a great decision. So we actually did what Google told us not to do, but we yielded great results. So go ahead and test that out. Just because Google is telling you to do something, it doesn't always mean it's right. So y'all, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will chat with you tomorrow.